My hovercraft is full of eels. Okay, it seems to be working. Hi everyone, welcome to the latest meetup. And today, it's a design meetup, so I hope most of you are designers here. And we have two speakers, or rather three speakers, but two presentations for tonight. First one will be by David from Applifting, and the second one will be by Hanka and Jitka from Mews. Sadly, the third speaker, Gabča and Jitka from Mews. Sadly, the third speaker couldn't make it today, but that just means we'll have plenty more time for our other speakers. And they promised me that if we have enough time at the end, that there will be a short panel discussion, and I have prepared some devilish questions for them, so stay tuned. And without further ado, this is David.
Hello, you guys. Oh, it's quite. Are we fine? Are we doing fine? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does it work? Right. Cool. So hello, everyone. My name is David Vobecký. I'm a UX UI designer here from Applifting. You might know me for my nickname Vobe, which is written right here. It's just abbreviation of my surname. There's nothing more deeper in that. And what I would like to talk about today is a very important aspect of product or service development process. It's usability testing. But as long as most of you, you guys are, I would say, designers, aren't you? Put your hands up if you're a designer or not. Oh yeah, designer. Well, it's not most of you. Okay. It's like 50-50, right? Isn't it? Cool. Yeah, so I won't tell you, I don't want to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what usability testing is all about, since you guys can Google it yourselves, and there's plenty of information about it on the internet, and we can chat about it later after the presentation. But I would like to focus on something specific, more specific, and it's how we overcome usability testing skepticism. You know, how we deal with people being skeptical, having doubts when it comes to usability testing. So before we do that, I would like you guys to have a reason to listen to me, so I would like to tell you something more about myself. So who's this Vobe anyways, right? So he's been in the field for 5 years already. I worked for the biggest Czech bank. Now I work here in Applifting. I put my dirty hands on a huge variety of stuff, such as home security, cryptocurrencies, loans, daily banking, etc. There's a lot of it. Also, it happens I'm a university lecturer, and I lecture UX design at University of Business and Economics, which in Czech is Vysoká škola ekonomická. And what might be the most important part related to today's talk or today's presentation or today's topic is that I've been part to a lot of usability testing sessions, especially as the person being responsible for conducting all the stuff and testing those participants. So I would say I'm pretty proficient to talk about the topic, okay? What is usability testing? So, as I said, I'm certainly not going to tell you what it's all about, but let's refresh the topic. So it's a process. It's a process of evaluation, product evaluation, through observing and analyzing how people interact with a product. And what does that mean in real life, right? So the basic setup, there are a lot of options how to solve this stuff, but in the basic setup, there's a tester and participant. Usually, when I say participant, it's individual who represents somehow the target audience of the product. And this individual, he's interacting with your product, and you're basically listening to his comments, to his feedback. You're watching his or her behavior, and you're making notes. And after all this, you're making some sort of conclusion, and you can like basically take this conclusion and take this analysis and put all the stuff you learned into your product. Usability testing is a very important part of design process. Usually, in my experience, not everyone is that, I would say, UX mature, user experience or user-centric mature to incorporate the process, the usability testing in their design process. So that's the issue. We had a really hard time sometimes educating our clients why is usability testing important, why is even any research important when it comes to product or service development. So that's what we do, and that's what I would like to talk about today. So how we dealt with people having doubts, and those people, they don't necessarily have to be clients, but sometimes those people were team members, product owners, etc. So, typical argument why usability testing is not the good idea, it's overrated. So we should be spending our time doing different things. Yeah, so those people were kind of affected by tight schedules, time pressure, and they were afraid at the time to carry out the testing, especially hiring or recruiting people, or finding the place you can test and preparing the equipment, preparing the prototype you can test on or the product. It can take a lot of time. The time those people considered can be spent more effectively, especially by developing the product itself, designing screens, etc. Also, they've been afraid sometimes that usability testing can help us to find flaws, which could cause us to postpone the release of the product. And as I said, when you're under pressure and tight schedule, you don't want it, right? Also, important part is money. They said, hey, it's a waste of money, and time is money, so it's quite related to the first argument, right? And they believed those costs associated with usability testing are disproportionate to results it brings to the team, to the product. Especially, as I said, hiring, equipment, preparation, and most of all, time of all those people being part of the usability testing. So, especially the tester and preparing the scenario and analysis. So that costs a lot of money. Another typical argument, common argument why no, we know our users already. So those people, especially clients, they've been for a long time on the market and they had a lot of experience already. So they were like, hey, I know what users need and what's best for them. So I don't need to learn anything new right now. But I would say we're not blessed by the God enough to know every single thing about our users. So we respected their opinion, their knowledge, everything they brought to the project, but we always needed to conduct some type of research to be sure we are doing the right thing. Another part is I tested this myself already. So yeah, they basically tested the product on themselves and they draw their own conclusions, how usability at a project is like, and how is it usable, how does it look like, and they were satisfied. So they said, hey, I'm satisfied, so users will be satisfied as well. But what those people didn't understand that their opinion is not representative to the entire target audience. And how did we deal with this? Or how do we deal with this right now? So, yeah. Arguments for usability testing, it can save a lot of money. So as I said, money is always a common excuse. And also it can be a very strong argument. You can save a lot of money simply by making the product user-friendly enough and doing it the right way, so you don't have to do any redos or adjustments or rework or throw the stuff away. I always say that the worst research or usability testing method is to just simply release it to the market and watching the product being destroyed by the market. And what's also important, it can save a lot of money when it comes to support. And by saying this, I mean you're not overwhelming your support by cranky questions or annoying comments from your users. And I forgot one other thing. It's not always about saving money. It's also by earning money. It's proven that user-friendly products and products with nice user experience are just simply more successful. Another argument we use, you will get to know your users better. So yeah, as I said, there's a naive idea, we know everything and we're blessed enough to know everything. But sometimes, yeah, it is like during the usability testing, you confirm your hypothesis and you're like, hey, I expected this to happen and I knew the interaction will look exactly like this. But sometimes it's quite a shocker and people are being surprised by real users doing simply completely different things than they intended. So that's really fun to watch, and that's why this is important. Yeah, what else? We'll find the trouble spots. So finding the trouble spots is all about identifying and correcting bottlenecks and problematic features of the product. So this is all about, usability testing is all about letting users to do that instead of you. So they are doing it for you. And you might have rough idea about what might those blind spots look like. And you might have a hint about it. Which are key features, which key features might be problematic, and which features might perform not so well. But always when there are multiple understandings, it simply needs a fix, needs adjustment. Yeah, another argument we use, it helps with prioritization. That's important. So prioritization is about finding stuff we should develop and we should focus on. So it's about things that do and don't matter. And what's important to say, users might know how to use your design or how to use some specific feature, but it doesn't always mean they want to use it. It's useful for them. That's important to say. So basically, through user testing, it's easier, to determine what to develop and what to focus on. And one another argument, we'll get unbiased view. So yeah, so what you need is some objective criticism, and that's what you get by incorporating usability testing in your product development process. It doesn't mean you're not getting unbiased view when you're testing with your friends or with your family or with your team members. You can do some sort of Guerrilla testing, but it's mostly related to usability, not the usefulness, you know. So you need to look at your product. It's not flawless, and you need to get unbiased view, and you can get that always from the target audience. And one last argument we have is confidence. So usability testing can help you a lot with confidence. In early stages, it's pretty common to be uncertain about what you're doing, if you're heading the right way. But once you've been through usability testing, you're being more certain you're on the right track. And that's not only for the client or stakeholders, but it's also for the whole team. There's nothing better than seeing your potential users interact with the product and seeing them, and it gives the whole team a lot of confidence, and they're more willing to do the stuff related to the product. What else can you do? You can show examples of successful use of usability testing. By saying this, I mean you can show some concrete examples, how usability testing led to improvements when it comes to user experience and user satisfaction, and of course, what might be the most important, especially to clients or other stakeholders, return on investments. That's very important. Of course, you have a lot of possibilities when it comes to showing examples, so you can find a lot of on the internet. When you have your personal experience, that's way better. If you have something to show to those clients, it will be the best for you. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's weird. Yeah. Make them see for themselves. So that's quite related what I've said before about being certain and getting confidence. So seeing firsthand people or users interacting with your product is priceless. It's amazing, and it kind of fosters user-centric philosophy or thinking in people from the team, and especially the client or stakeholder. And last thing you could do, or last but not least, you can offer some alternatives. So there are plenty of other methods you can use, research methods. For example, expert views, or my favorite is heuristic analysis. Who does know who is heuristic analysis about, or heuristic evaluation? Cool, just 2 people, oh my. Yeah, so how does it work? Simply said, it's about oh, okay. Yeah. It's about putting in front of your product, instead of user, you're putting their UX expert who goes through the whole process, and based on 10 special rules, he is able to find or identify problematic parts or issues in the design. But it always depends on constraints you have. It's especially related to budget, of course. So this heuristic evaluation or heuristic analysis is cheaper, but still you don't get in touch with the real target audience. And conclusion. So what usability testing does? Why is it good? Usually it saves a lot of money. And as I said before, it can earn you a lot of money, allows you to get know your users better, shows the trouble spots, helps with prioritization, offers unbiased view, and gives you confidence. What you do, keep in mind, you deliver a service to help achieve specific goals. So it's not about saying, hey, this other company I worked for, we did usability testing and it was useful, so let's do it. You should bear in mind all those constraints you have and specifics of the product you're working on and the target audience as well. It's not magic solution or any salvation people are looking for. It's just a research. You should always consider, it's not a one-time event, but rather ongoing process. So you should always consider strategy and users you would like to test with, and the product the product you're working on. and you should keep iterating. So it's not like, hey, we've been through usability testing, so we're done, and we don't have to evaluate with users anymore, and we're super happy. So that's not how it works. Oh, sorry. And there are plenty of other research methods you can use. As I said before, I mentioned heuristic analysis or evaluation. Either way, don't worry if you're not a decision maker here. So, ultimate decision is not always yours to make, especially when you're not the person holding the budget or being responsible. But you can provide those people with recommendation and advices so they can do or perform informed decision. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for listening. Now it's time for your questions if you have any.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just quiet in this post with my voice, so I'll just drink and I'll be right back.
It's quite all right. Okay, so are there any questions? Perfect.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wanted to ask, you made a good point. Sometimes you are not the one who owns the budget. So in my career way, I let's say sometimes see an approach what it is okay if business to business customers will suffer. Especially if you have ever set up a Google OAuth, when you know what the end user will have to fill in 6 or 7 fields just to make it work. I think what it is because the end users are not the ones who pay for it. Like it is all for managers. Like the managers who will not use it, but they will pay for it. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure what it is why Kubernetes became such important thing. Because the ones who pay for it are not ones who will set up the deployment. Don't you think what such arguments about the usability testing is just a symptom of, let's say, more severe disease of the IT as an industry, not just some manager what doesn't want to pay for it?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I'll try to answer to the first part of it. I think there should be some sort of equilibrium to what our user needs and what user would like to see and what users would like to use. And on the other side, there are all those business requirements and demands, what business needs. So exactly like, hey, there are users are suffering. There are tons of fields they need to fill, and this is what makes my profession, I would say, more interesting, because you're trying to find the might sound bad, but you're trying to find not the worst solution, So and the other part of the question, sorry, the other part of the question was.
Isn't the argument about the usability, the need for the usability testing, the symptom of some more severe problem?
I would say so. Like, I see, like there should be always, like I said in my previous answer, there should be some sort of user's perspective in the whole process, since you're creating the whole product for the user, and you're expecting user to use it. So you still need to bring their opinion or their perspective to the development process. Did I answer? Oh yeah.
Partially. Let me just expand it a little bit. So it sounds like what we again see a competition between marketing and technology. Some let's say a compiler what does its job in 1 millisecond and just returns 0. It is not what the customer will pay for. But if it makes its job for 5 minutes and pollutes the log with something like this is done, this is in progress, and then it is done, when it seems like something what worth money. So
you mean if it's worth to spend time or something, you by example using usability testing on something not so important?
No, my exact question is about like what the usability is not the case when we talk about the business-to-business solutions. It is about the
why not?
Because they pay not for usability, they pay for good presentations.
Oh yeah, okay. I still think there should be users' perspective still. You don't necessarily need to conduct usability testing or have dedicated UX designer or whatever. Like, yeah, sometimes there's not really that strong focus on how usability is, like when it comes to some specific product, especially some business to business for very specific people or some admins or you know. So yeah, it depends. Cool.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you so much. So usability testing, you often do it with a small batch of users, 4 or 5. So let's say that I have a question how you deal with a situation when you have a sample of 4 users and 2 of them accomplish the task pretty well and 2 of them just didn't do it. And so how do you interpret these results and how do you justify usability testing to your stakeholders who are quite skeptical to this method in general?
That's a great question. I might have pretty stupid and laconic answer. It's mostly about intuition. You should never pauschalize based on usability testing that target audience will behave like people you tested with behaved. Yeah, so it's all about intuition, and you can make a lot of decisions. For example, you are like, hey, 50% of the people they successfully went through the process, and for 50% that didn't. So it depends, but I would say, hey, it doesn't work very well. 50% is quite a huge amount of people not being able to go through the process. So I would like adjust all those problems we found during the usability testing, and I would do another round of usability testing. That's what I said before. It's not just one-time event. You need to iterate. You need to do it over and over. Did I answer? Yeah.
What if you don't have time to test again? You just have to come up with a recommendation.
Oh yeah. So I would fix those issues. Those issues which were obvious from the testing, and I would pray to the God and be like, hey, hopefully nothing else will go bad.
Okay, thanks. More questions? Right.
Hey everyone, my name is Soren, I'm a product designer. David, thank you for your presentation, that was insightful. That was about the theory side of the usability testing, but I just wanted to ask you something about the practical side. So let's say what tools you're using while doing usability testing. So let's say I'm using Mews and I'm doing the prototype testing with my users, so I'll send them the invite, and I do moderated testings or unmoderated testing. So I use Mews. So what tools do you use?
Yeah.
please keep the answer a bit brief.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so
Oh yeah,
more people
I'll
can
be
ask.
brief. So basically, we use semester. I'll talk about how we do it here in Applifting. So what's maybe the most favorite way we are used to the way we are used to. We used to semi-structured, in-person or remote testing. So we have some sort of scenario and we go through it, and we have like 8 participants, 6 to 8 participants, and we don't usually use any software for this specific software. But when you're doing this remotely, oh god, that's I don't like it. I like it in person, you know. Usability testing.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, more questions? Anyone? Right.
Thank you for the amazing presentation. I would love to ask if you had, maybe what was your most humbling experience in usability testing? Because usually for me, this is the resource of humbling experience when I think something is right and it was completely different. So what was that for you?
My worst experience, or?
Most surprising, most humbling, exciting experience.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, of course. Give me a second. Does it work? It should be working. Sorry. Yeah, most surprising. Let me think. I'm not sure. Yeah, there were plenty. Maybe this situation wasn't kind of related to usability testing itself, but I've been part to usability testing where our client completely changed their mindset or their philosophy, and it wasn't only about usability testing, but they were like, hey, oh my god, those people do interact like this, and they were so surprised. So yeah, that was the most surprising thing I ever saw, like, hey, it can change the person so like this, you know. So that was shocking to me.
Thanks. More questions? Anyone? Sorry, that will be the last question.
Okay, I will be quick. Thank you for the presentation. I want to ask you if you use MVP as a big test.
If I do use MVP as a big test?
If we can think about it, like MVP is a test of the whole app, yes, that you build really quickly and you test on the users. If you make something like this, if you build MVPs at all?
Oh yeah, we do build MVP, sorry. Yeah, we're... I wish I could say we're testing every single thing we do here and every single MVP we create here, but it wouldn't be true. So we're trying our best to recommend our clients or advise them, hey, usability testing is the right thing to do with this MVP. But also, like when you have MVP, you most likely didn't spend that much time by creating it and designing it and developing it, so you can release it to the market. I said before that it's not a good option of research when you release to the market, but it's part of lean startup philosophy, right? So you just release the stuff you created. You're not spending that much time by thinking if it's good or if it's not. That's why it's MVP, right? You didn't spend that much time, budget, money, time of people by creating it, so release it and let's watch what happens.
Thank you very much. So that was David.
Thank you.
Thanks. And before we get to the girls from Mews, let's have a 5-minute break so you can refresh and stuff. And see you here in 5 minutes. Also, there is a designer quiz right here, and first 5 people who will fill that in and go to Anička, which is somewhere around here. Anička, where are you? Maybe she isn't. So the lady who will come through that door, you will get a baseball cap, so go for it. It's pretty easy. do user testing, which might be really amusing, hopefully. Sorry about that joke. So, girls, come on stage.
Okay, hello everyone. Maybe like this. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Thank you for coming here. My name is Gabriela, and I am here with my colleague Jitka, and we both work as UX researchers. And today we will tell you about usability testing fuck-ups. Because we did quite a lot of usability testing in our life, and we know that there are many things which could go actually pretty wrong during conducting usability testing sessions, even if you really try to do it correctly. So we already seen many mistakes. We saw many people to do those mistakes we are going to talk about, but we also made those mistakes by ourselves. We learned from them, and we are going to tell them today what we did, what we learned, and so you don't have to do those mistakes by yourself. We are from Mews, and Mews is a company which creates a property management system for hotels. We provide both solutions for B2B, business to business, and also B2C, business to customers. So it means that our participants are usually people from hotel, any hotel staffs you can imagine. It could be a receptionist, general manager, housekeeping manager, whoever, and also regular people like you who travel from time to some hotel. And so it's pretty diverse, and this is our team. We are part of small international team. We have our research manager, we have our quantitative researcher, and me and Jitka, we both work as more qualitative UX researchers. And maybe it's also good to mention how we got to the field of UX research. I studied psychology, and I was always somehow interested in the psychology of internet and how people behave on the internet. But I didn't know that time that something like UX research actually exists. But when I found out, I was like, yes, that's the thing I really want to do, because it's pretty exciting. You can observe users, how they interact with some sort of media, with internet, with some digital products. And yeah, it's fun, it's exciting, and yeah, sometimes I really quite enjoyed it. No, I actually enjoyed it, but sometimes it's not that fun. And then my first job was at CZ, you probably know the company, and I really enjoyed talking there to users, conduct usability testing, explorative interviews. For example, I really enjoyed working with children and how they work with Mapy.cz or with some elderly people using Seznam. That was fun. And now I'm at Mews, and Jitka will also introduce herself.
Hello, so my name is Jitka. My career path was quite similar to Gabriela's, actually almost exactly the same. So I started as psychology student, also in Brno. Then I kind of got interested in the psychology on the internet, so I joined the so-called junior researcher program, and part of that was internship at Cambridge when we were focusing at usability of terms and conditions and the research on that. And afterwards, I got back home, and I was actually looking for a job, and there was this Kiwi internship when I was doing usability testing of booking flight tickets. So it was the first contact with UX, actually. And after university, I started to work at Seznam, where I really loved the variety of the products and the different users. It was exciting to work with something like maps and horoscopes at the same time. And afterwards, I ended up here at Mews, so back to the travel business, and we are, as Gabriela said, focusing on hotels, accommodation, the hotel staff, and the guests. So, you heard about us, now about the team and how we work. The UX research team is part of the design team, and we have, we are centralized, meaning that we work for the teams from B2B and B2C both, so we are participating on anything they need. We are basically providing services in 3 different categories. The first one is like doing the research itself, so the usability testing, Also the mentoring when they do the research and they need some feedback. And third thing is education. We also cooperate with different teams in the environment, like marketing team, content team, or data science team. So that's us.
And what you will learn today and what we are going to speak about. We have 6 topics, 6 failures, and 6 good advice maybe. So we are going to speak about how not to recruit B2C participants, how not to recruit B2B participants, why not to invite everyone on the call on the usability session, how not to disappoint your respondents, how not to ask wrong questions, and how not to interpret results. So let's start with the first one, how not to recruit B2C participants, regular people like you. And let's start with a short story. Once I thought it might be a good idea to recruit ordinary people from Facebook. That was in our beginning at Mews. Our UX research team was just about to start and we had no panel of participants we could research with. So, and that time I had also one project which had pretty tight deadline, and I didn't need anyone specific for that project. It was just like regular travelers who from time to time traveled to hotels, nothing really too much specific. So I thought, where do I get those ordinary people? People are on Facebook, so let's try that one. So I joined few random groups. I created nice posts in there, I created nice press screening form, and I also mentioned the incentive for the research. Yeah, and so everything went pretty much well. The next day I got 200 responses, which was pretty nice because I only needed like 6 people. So I got 200 responses, I needed 6 participants, so I thought like, okay, I will send 10 emails to 10 one email to 10 people, and maybe I will get those 6 eventually, and I also send them link for Calendly so they can schedule the meeting for themselves so it fits to our time. So how many interviews did we get? What do you think? 134. Yeah, I don't know how it really happened. Probably they just shared the link. This is how my calendar looked like for 5 weeks in the row. So I had to actually write, 129, emails. That's thank you, but I don't really have time for you. So that was exhausting and I almost cried. Not really, but almost. So we established some theories afterwards. We were sure those people weren't some bots because we spoke some of them. They were like decent human beings, but not like really good participants, but still they were human beings. And we established some theories afterwards, like some really weird family sharing the links for the interview, lacking the incentives, or some kind of cool, like who really want to be part of that research. We will never know, but we got the learning from that. The first one is recruit your real users, not people from Facebook. I eventually knew that it was a bad idea. I just wanted to save some time for myself, but it just simply didn't work. So the best user is always that one who actually really use your product. So I have to go to the hotel's lobby, wait there for real people. I offered them some free coffee and cake, and they spoke to me. I got my insight, they got their cake, everybody was happy, and it worked. In case you don't have your users or you don't want to speak with your real users for several reasons, it's also possible, you can consider using some platforms like user interviews or Respondents.io, which are platforms who actually provide you some verified user who can tell you some insight. And another learning, be careful how you work with the incentive. We offered money that time, which is pretty normal, let's say. But there are many people out there who only want the money and will not tell you anything important. So maybe money is not the best. Maybe you can think of that you will give them some voucher for your product, some sale for your product, maybe just some voucher for coffee, or it can be money, but you just have to be bright about that. And the last thing, but of course the very important one, always double check the setting in the Calendly or any other tool so you don't have to write 129 sorry emails as I did.
Okay, now for the B2B, we have the contact list here because this is our customers. So it should be easy. It's not. It's not easy for one good reason, and that's that the people who want to talk to us are unfortunately not the people we want to talk to. Who wants to talk to us? If you get to the hotel, the guy who replies to the email is the manager or the hotel owner. He's actually great because you need good relationship with him. He is the one who decides where the money goes. He is the one who decides if they will have the product you provide or not, so you really need to talk to him sometimes. However, what he wants from you is discuss business. This means that he wants to present you his business idea, he wants to know how you can help him, he actually wants to know where you are going as a product, what's on the roadmap. He doesn't want to look for print the bill button. So if you need somebody for usability testing, this guy wants to talk to you, you don't want to talk to him. Another guy who wants to talk to you is the power user. In our case, this is the guy who is actually teaching everybody in the hotel how to use the product. He is the true troubleshooter. He knows everything. He knows the bills. He knows creating reservations. He's in the contact call with the support system. But he knows everything so well that if this guy can solve that, it doesn't mean that the receptionist can. And you need to know if this guy can solve that. So this guy is the one you want. Or maybe not the receptionist, maybe we want the housekeeper, or the food and beverage guy, or the accountant, somebody like that. The trouble is, those people don't have time for you, because they do the job. They are there in front of the guest. And that is actually a problem, because you need to really convince him to talk to you, but it's really worth it, because this one will tell you what you need to hear. What are the learnings? First thing is that there is time and place for building relationship, and it's not the user testing. If you actually build the relationship at the user testing, you are doing it wrong, because then the people are influenced by the friendship that you are building, and they don't provide the honest feedback. You also need to try to contact the most relevant audience possible. Like if you are doing B2B, maybe you are facing some specific user group with this part of the product, maybe the accountants, then really you need the accountants. And the last thing is segmentation, and I cannot stress this enough, because if you talk repeatedly to the same hotel, or you talk repeatedly to the same group of people, you don't get new insights, because you know this user group so well, even though you have good relationship with them, that it doesn't bring anything new. And also, in our case, the little hospitality, like little hostel in the center of Berlin, is not the same thing as the big hotel chain. They use it differently. They use it like, you know, the use cases are different. And you need to know that you are answering both groups, not just one.
Yeah. Let's speak about why not to invite everyone on the call or in general on the usability testing sessions. So, once I was asked for joining the usability testing session as a mentor and provide a feedback to the interviewer afterwards. And this is what I got. It's like 14 people plus one user on the call, and I was horrified. Actually, if you would have more time, I would let you write down why this is wrong, and we could have played some bingo, but we don't have that time, so I will just tell you why it's wrong. So, we don't have the one main interviewer here because there are 14 people in here. So it means that people jump into speech of each other, and there is no clear structure of it because everybody is asking their own agenda. Other reasons, topics are constantly changing because there are so many people, and if there is no clear enough who is the interviewer, then everybody is asking their questions, and the topics are just so different every minute, so it doesn't make any sense. Some people don't know the scenario, if there is a scenario, because it's nice if you have the scenario, because otherwise you are not that lost, you are not jumping from the topics so often. But sometimes you don't even have the scenario and people don't know it, which is quite wrong. And some people might not even know why they are on the call, because maybe it was for a good purpose. Maybe product manager thought of, yeah, this IT guy should get some empathy with the user, and it's a good thing, but the person don't know why the person is on a call, what is supposed to do, what the person is supposed to do there, and so they are just like watching, observing, and looks confused. Then it all leads to survey-like interview. It means that you have some questions and you just expect the answer, and then you don't have any additional questions. So you will only scratch the surface. You will basically just get shallow answers, and you will not go deep. You will not understand the root of the problems if you don't ask additional questions and really try to understand the need of the person. There is no dedicated note taker. It means that everybody makes notes, right? Or nobody makes notes. Nobody knows. And then it's really hard to interpret the results. Of course, you have the recording, but you just make your work harder if you don't have notes. Also, the user got confused. Like, why am I on the call with 14 people asking me random questions? What is the goal of this? And it could be pretty exhausting, right? And of course, and this is very important, it's not really possible to build any good relationship with the user if there are 14 people staring at you as you do some task and answering some questions. Definitely, you will not get any honest answer, because this is just stressful situation for the user. And the last thing, it's just completely wrong. So the learnings from that, before you do any kind of usability testing sessions, any kind of interview, just have your research questions defined and know your research goal, because you basically need to know why you are doing the interview, right? You have to know what are your hypotheses, what are your assumptions, so you have your right questions and the goal for the interview. Once you have those, then prepare for the interview. It shouldn't be hard with the research questions and goal. You just can write down your guide or scenario and be sure that everybody is familiar with the scenario or guide. It doesn't mean that the scenario, you have to strictly follow the scenario word by word, but it just will give you some little help with you being focused on the topic you really need to answer. Then you can go deep, ask some additional questions, but it will provide some structure, so you will not jump from one topic to another. Also, if you share that guide with some people beforehand, you will avoid them asking some random questions, and also they will be happy that they have some space to provide you feedback for your guide, and maybe also include some of the questions they want to ask in the guide. And the last thing, usability session is not place for 14 people, not even for 5 people. It's place for one interviewer, one clear interviewer who is dedicated, one dedicated note taker, plus one observer. It's more than enough, because you don't want to stress the users. And for the rest, there is recording. It's always great to record the session, and everybody can watch it afterwards. There are also some possibilities, if you don't do it remotely, that some other people can watch it. You can still record it even if it's in person, or you can use some kind of usability lab, or etc. There are some other options.
So we have the respondent, and we do not want him to leave the call disappointed. How to do it? I will step aside a little bit, and I will show you the message that made me so happy when I joined Mews, and I needed some users for call. When we have people who build relationship with customers, and we are recruiting through them. So when they got back to me with Mr. Whoever, who is eager to give some feedback, I was excited, because this is exactly who I needed. Mr. Whoever was the receptionist, so the right guy, and in my head, he was eager to give me feedback to my prototype, to let me know what can be improved so I can then share it with the designer and everybody will be happy, rainbow everywhere, you know. However, Mr. Whoever didn't want to give me feedback on my prototype. He actually wanted to tell me what's wrong with Mews since the beginning of time. So, 40-minute usability testing, and I spent 30 minutes listening to that list, which is pain. Like, honest feedback is a good thing. You want that. You want to talk to the users, ask them how they use the product, how they like it. That's important, but there is not time for that at the usability testing, unfortunately. And how to basically not experience that is to frame the interview right. For me, it boiled down to 3 things. First important thing is how long is it gonna take? The respondent needs to be sure how long is it gonna take, and he needs to have time for you, because otherwise, and that also happened to me, they will just leave you in the middle of the interview because guest came. They just don't have time anymore. So you need to be really clear if it's 40 minutes, 1 hour, half an hour, they need to know. The second thing they really need to know is what is it gonna be about. This is important for 2 reasons. First one, you can basically tell them not the list today, send it by email or we will have another call. Second thing is, this way you make sure that the guy you are going to talk to is the right guy. Because sometimes, especially with big hotel chains, there are so many accountants and they do different jobs and you need to test one specific flow. This way you will know that the accountant that comes is the right one. It's not like for sure. And the third thing is, tell them why you want to talk to them. Otherwise, they will just resend the email to some other person in the hotel. Maybe they will not come whatsoever. And also, if you tell them not the list, you still need to let them know that they are important to you, you value their opinion, and you are here to make their job easier, because then they are motivated to actually come to the call. In our case, the B2B participant, they usually don't do it like during the workday. This is something like up to it. They still need to fulfill their day-to-day tasks, no matter what. So this is something more they need to do, and you need to keep them motivated, because like the incentive is not here for them.
Okay, so we recruited the right users, we got to the interview, we frame it correctly. That's great, because so many fuck-ups could happen on the way, but we are here, we got the person for the usability session, and now we don't want to ask the wrong questions, right? So, let's imagine, in our case, that we want to, for example, redesign a flow of creating reservation for a room in a hotel system. And here are some questions and one task prepared. And at the first sight, they might look like good, useful, maybe they will tell us something, but they are not, because there are some problems with those questions, and let's look at it. So the first one, do you have any problem when creating reservation? This is actually kind of leading question. And the question is leading because you mentioned the word problem, which already has some negative connotation. It means that maybe the user don't even have some problem. So if you say that they have a problem, then they might realize that they have some problems, even if it's not true. So try to avoid this kind of questions, and instead, you can ask the person, like, what was the last time you did the reservation? Can you show it to me? So they don't actually have to describe it and think of the problem, but they can show you how they did it. You can just observe them, and then you see if they had any problem or not. Then another question. Would you prefer to have the button there or here? It's some kind of closed questions, because you don't give the users any third options or any other options the user couldn't think of before you mention this too. And also, users are not that aware about like design elements and how they should be located, so they will probably not give you any like valid answer. Instead of asking that, again, you should test the prototype and see if the button causes any troubles. And if it doesn't, maybe then the location of the button is not important at all, and it could just be as you wish, as you wish. So instead of asking those closed questions, just test the prototype. Another question, like how does creating a reservation work for you? It's not the worst question at all, but it falls under the umbrella of, let's say, hypothetical, abstract question or questions about future situations, and users usually don't remember how was the creating reservation for them the last time, or they are just not really aware about that. So maybe the better question or better thing to do is again to put them in the same situation again. So let's tell them, let's imagine you want to create a reservation, how you do it, and then you can they have to go through the task, you will observe it, and then you can ask how was it for you, because they have it in their mind and it's always better. Okay, and this is the last one. It's task, because when you do usability session, you always have to create some tasks. So it could sound like, firstly, find out the button, make a new reservation, then click on create, add their dates and save, and voila, the user succeed, but it's not like that, because this is some kind of tutorial-like tasks, and you just don't want to give your user tutorial, because of course it will be easy for them then. But you don't have to overcomplicate things. You can just give them the task they should be actually able to do in the system. Like, let's create reservation, nothing too complex. So, some learnings from that. Don't assume. Listen, observe, and ask for confirmation of your user if you are not sure that you understand correctly. Try to ask about the past, because if user can think of something from the past, it will give you more valuable insights, more concrete insights. Or what is even better, if you have the option, is to observe them about the presence and let them to do the task in front of you. You will basically get more insights from that than from any theoretical situation, because it's then easier to observe and users don't have to think of some situations. Also, closed questions won't give you any good. Try to ask as openly as you can, so they can come up with some answers you don't even expect that they could come up with. And when creating tasks, focus on the goal of the product or the design or the feature, and what should the feature or the product should be there for the users, and don't give them tutorial.
And the last part. You did the usability testing, you have the results, you actually improved the prototype accordingly, you launched it, and it sucks. Why? Let's imagine a use case we all know, using a map. Let's imagine this is an internet map for this reason. And first scenario, you are planning a trip. So you are sitting, let's say, at home. You have a nice cup of coffee, you have all the time in the world, and you are planning the road step by step, all the places you want to see, all the restaurants, you are discovering the surroundings, you are using all the fancy buttons, and it's all great. Another situation, you are standing in the middle of Prague, you are hungry as hell, it's raining. In 15 minutes, you need to be on a meeting, and you just want to find some food. You stare in the street, people are bumping into you, and it's just hell. In that scenario, you don't care about any fancy buttons. You actually don't care that much even about the colors of the map. You just hate everything. And you just need to find food as soon as possible, ideally in an open restaurant. Totally different use cases. However, when we do the usability testing, how does it look like? There is dedicated time. If it's in person, you maybe even provide the snacks. If something doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you will be hungry forever. It just means that, well, you didn't find the button, it's testing, who cares? And this is the situation we are testing. So when we are doing the usability, we need to think about how does the real world situation actually look like, and how much does our testing differs from that. And we need to encounter this to our results. There are just a few things that we tend to forget. Some of them are actually even connected to our product, like the first one. The first one actually means that when you do the task repeatedly, it gets to your procedural muscle memory. So you do it automatically. You don't think, you just click. You know where to click. And if you change the product and you change this particular flow, it doesn't matter how well it behaved on the usability testing, the users will be confused. Actually, they will be really confused because this is basically hardwired to their brain and they need to relearn it. So if you are changing some tasks that people do automatically, you need to keep that in mind and be prepared for some harsh feedback no matter what. The second thing is that in a real world, there actually is a time pressure. People don't have 40 minutes to find a restaurant on your map. They have 2 minutes. So if you are testing participant and it's calm and you know it's actually not calm in the real world, think about that and maybe incorporate some time pressure to the testing environment. And the last thing is, there are actually many distractions in real life. In the middle of the flow, somebody talks to you and you just don't finish it on one go. People are talking to you in general, so you don't focus fully. You have different resources. Like, basically nothing in our life looks like you have 50 minutes to fulfill that, and it's okay. What are the learnings? The first one, the most important one, go out. Don't sit in your office testing it with your users just in the safe environment. You need to see the product in the real world. You need to see the situations. You need to know what is happening to the people using your product. The second thing is that sometimes we approach usability testing like clinics, sterile environment. Everybody the same condition, because when you want to compare different users, you need everybody to have the same conditions, right? Well, not actually, because people out there are not using your product in sterile conditions. It's not the same over and over. So if you can, add a little distraction, change something a little bit, ask something different in the middle of the testing. Try to make it real, because then the results are actually saying something. The last, like the time pressure, I already mentioned that. If you know that the users have 1 minute to finish the tasks, and they do not finish it during 1 minute at the usability testing, then they failed. And maybe you need to change something. And the last thing is, check the data. You probably know that when you change something in the product, there is this like valley of the dead, when like the user satisfaction, the time they need to fulfill the task goes down for a minute because they need to relearn that. But afterwards, the data should go up. If they don't get up, something is wrong. And maybe why it's not getting up is because you didn't encounter the real life situation before, and you don't actually understand how they use it. So get back to the people, ask them, observe them, and then you will know. So, that was everything from us. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, well, you see us, so you can ask.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I have a question about the reward for the participants from, let's say, Facebook group and participants from a hotel. Do you have any parameters, or does those groups have some different kind of attitudes of rewarding them?
Yeah. Basically, right now, when we are testing with B2C participants, we also rely on the money from time to time, and we use the research from, I think it was user interviews, how you should pay your users, because we work with international people, so it's also divided there according to countries and how much you should pay them. I don't know exactly, because we didn't do the B2C testing for quite long, but we follow this one. Or sometimes we do it when we do it like in real life, not remotely, and when we go to the hotel, we usually have some agreement with the hotel for the vouchers for coffee or for cake, something in their restaurants, and it works also very nicely. And with the hotel, it's different situation. We don't give them incentives, and we still have to somehow work on how to approach that. Right now, basically the incentive for them is that we will do something nice for them. We will make their life easier by creating our product better, because they work with it every day. So what we can offer them right now is basically good feeling, but no, also just like sending them, hey, according our testing, we changed this, and we hope that you are happy with that, and just give them some feedback, and that you have to give them the feeling that you really valued their time, and that you actually use the insights.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any more questions?
Thank you so much. It was awesome. You mentioned that the people you want to talk to are typically very busy people during the daytime. So have you tried unmoderated usability testing as a method? And what's your experience with it? What are the pros and cons compared to in-person remote or actually like being with the people usability testing method?
So for the first question, yes, we have tool for unmoderated testing as well. It's called Usability. We are actually just starting to use that. So we did like 3 tests in there, and it's a great tool for card sorting. It's a great tool for simple tasks that are not too complicated, where there are no like 7 different paths to fulfill that. And for that, it's great. It of course lacks some of the details. So you know they didn't finish that, but you don't know if they just like didn't want to finish it, they just like got lost, somebody came and they never came back, or if they really didn't understand. So this is like a little different. However, for less complicated tasks, it's great and it works wonders. And for the second thing, like the difference between a personal testing and the online testing, we actually do not have really resources for doing it everything personal, because our customers are all around the world, in America, in Australia, in Asia, in Europe, so it's not really an option, but we still need to do, and we do it even in the product teams, the hotel visits, because this is the only way how we can really see the business like on the go, how it works. So we combine those 2 methods. Of course, like the distant testing kind of lacks some of the quality of the personal one, because like you don't see all the movements of hands. You are not exactly here, but what actually is really useful is the combination. So we do test unmoderated in Usability, and then we actually conduct some moderated testing in that. So we have, for example, the map of clicks, even from the distant testing, and then we know, yes, the user clicked somewhere, so it provides some additional information.
Thanks. More questions?
Thank you for amazing presentation. I would like to know how on earth did that awful usability testing come to pass? That awful usability testing where so many people were present. Did it have any consequences or something? Because it feels just mean, you know.
Yeah, well, at our company, it's not always under our circumstances how the usability testing is planned, because we, like all of the teams, conduct their continuous discovery, and the level of creating the continuous discovery quite differs, because not every team is very mature in that. So we try to somehow educate people also on how it should look like, and we sometimes like mentor them. But yes, it happens from time to time that I don't know, for example, product managers say, okay, I need to test this thing and we are going to speak with this customer, and then someone says, yeah, I also want to ask that, and I also want to ask that, and then they sometimes send like links to also other people who they think it might be relevant for them to hear the opinion of the customers, and then it happened. Like this was the worst scenario I ever saw. It's not always like this. Usually it's just like 4 people, but I had to make screenshot of that, yes. Do you want to add something?
Maybe just like that, the research team in the company is for 1 year now, so it is also about the education, because when we came, there was no research team in a company that grew a lot in the last years. So it's also about building, let's say, the scenario for that and educating the people that you need. Well, yes, not 14 people on the call.
Thanks a lot. More questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. I will be short. From your experience, how to define a research goal correctly, not to make it too abstract and to maximize the outcome?
How does the research work? Or
No, the research goal.
research goals, yeah. There is actually in the beginning always meeting with multiple people in the team. So we meet with the product manager and we meet with the designer, and we together try to figure out what is the best outcome from the research. Basically, we are here sometimes just as moderators, because usually a product manager has the business goal in mind, like how much is it going to earn or what we should build, and designer needs to do the usability testing or actually kind of test if it's like useful, the opinion he has or something like that. So we use ourselves as moderators, and we are actually basically nudging people in making the decision in that matter. But again, it gets back to the education. So we are actually explaining what is the specific measurable research goal, how we can actually kind of provide the research to them and how we can help. So yeah, it's mostly about the education and discussions.
Thanks a lot. Any more questions?
Yes, you already mentioned Usability that you use for research. My question is, what other software do you use for the documentation of the results?
Mostly Dovetail. Yeah. So we have Dovetail and Gong, is it? But for research purposes, it's mostly Dovetail in the company. Then we use Usability, the mirror boards for presentation. We have user interviews for recruiting, and
yeah. Maybe how Dovetail works, this is a system where you can basically tag every topic or every insights which are important for you, and then you can track those insights in the whole company, basically, if you tag it correctly. So every time the user speaks about the same topic, you can easily find it out or create nice insights from that. So this is what we use. Then, yeah, as Jitka said, Miro for creating, reporting, and that's basically it.
Hi. You said that there's some difference between when you do the research with the user research team versus when the teams do the research themselves. How do you choose when do you do the research versus the teams?
There are actually different criteria. The first is the complexity of the research. Sometimes it is something when you need a little bit more support. And sometimes it's maybe usability testing. If the designer is proficient in that, they can do it alone. We can just like maybe get feedback for the scenario. And the second thing is actually there are different product teams in our company with, let's say, different maturity, because some teams are working together for a long time. They have quite good processes and they are really proficient in that. And some teams has basically been established like few months ago, and there we are providing more support because it makes more sense. So it's both the maturity of the team and also it's up to them to some extent that if they know how to do the usability, they do it.
I would also add that it is also like question of priority, like with OKRs, like the objective key results, because if our company has some like results they want to see, we also have to prioritize the projects. So for example, if the finance is now the important product, then we have to, as a research team, also give our power there and maybe deprioritize other projects and maybe help them more to do it by themselves. So it's also about the goals of the company.
Thank you very much. So that was the last question for now, and thank you very much for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Let's have another 10-minute break, and then we will have the short panel discussion, which will be less professional and more casual than usual. So stay tuned.
think about your answer because I've got it on my mind. It popped on my mind so fast because it's simple. When I was working for Česká spořitelna, yeah, I know, you know, right?
I wanted to say no names, but go ahead.
So for the biggest Czech bank, Anonymous, we had usability testing of product for business managers or something, and we had this business manager there, and she was extremely awful, arrogant, and she was asking every time like, hey, why I am even here, and what's that even good for? I'm wasting my time here. And I wasn't the interviewer back then, my colleague was, and she was handling it quite fine, but what was terrible, we didn't use open broadcast software or anything like that. We had this, I don't remember the name of the software, for recording those sessions, and it just crashed. And we didn't have a recording of the whole session, and I was really sad about it because it was the worst session I've been part to, and I was so sad I couldn't show it to someone else. And by the way, after like 15 minutes of this awful experience, she just said, I'm not handling this, just bye, and she left, and we were like, okay. So that was the most bizarre experience of mine.
Thanks. Next.
Okay, for me it was actually also pretty easy because when I was in Seznam, I was testing horoscopes one time. It was the best project I have ever had. Firstly, because every single participant who came, and we actually had it in the data that they use horoscopes. This is why we asked them about the interview, but every single one started with, oh no, I don't really use it, you know, I don't read that. And after a while, they were like, hey, here on this page, they have the Celtic horoscope, and this is the best one. But I actually also like the one about Indians, you know, the one when you are, I don't know which Indian animal. And there was one girl who was sitting there and who actually started to predict my future. And it was actually unexpected, let's say. I wrote it down. And I want to open the envelope with my future, like in 5 years, and see if she got it right. I honestly hope not. So that's my experience.
Thanks.
I also remember one experience from Seznam. There was already a legend when I joined Seznam about one person who never shuts up on a call, and that we should put him on a blacklist so nobody speaks with the person again. But like nobody did that job and nobody put him on blacklist. And at one call I ended up with him, and I just asked him, so who are you? Tell me what you do for a living. So just like basic questions as an opener, and that was it. I didn't have to say anything else, and I had no chance to say anything else because I got his life story from the beginning. It wasn't like, yes, I work as this and this, but it was like, well, let's start. I was born in a small village called like this, and then I had 7 sisters and 5 brothers, not like that. But it continued like 1 hour, and just, no, it wasn't possible to interrupt him.
Thanks. So as you can all see, if you do some user testing, you might have some nice stories to share. So go ahead. But some stories might not be always jolly. So do you remember your first user interview, and care to share any details of what you did good or what you did wrong? So does any of you remember the first user interview?
I think I do. I think I didn't do anything so terribly at the first call, but I did like these like usual mistakes, like being more like survey-like, not going really deep, asking about the need of the person. Also, I was like very stressed, so I didn't feel anyhow confident. So it actually looked like the person on the opposite side is saving me from the interview. Yeah, that was, and I also remember my first interview at Mews. It was the worst case because I got the B2B interview and I had no idea at all what the person is talking about. They were explaining me some features and I didn't even know that the feature exists, and I didn't know how to play it basically. So I was just like being there, listening, and I was really, really scared.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't remember my very first experience or my very first usability testing. But I know I was kind of some kind of wingman of this same colleague of mine from the previous question that you asked, the answer I provided. So I most likely I was pretty the same. Like I was nervous and I made all those common mistakes people make when they are interviewing someone. So, but I hopefully I did learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, I also actually don't really remember it, and I don't remember doing something terrible. But I kind of think that I wasn't aware how bad I was during the first interview. So I probably asked the leading questions. It was probably really bad, but I just wasn't aware. So I was happy.
Okay, thanks. So no more really terrible questions you don't want to remember. So hypothetical. If UX was an Olympic sport, what discipline would you like to watch and why? Maybe start with what disciplines there would be there. Any ideas from the audience? Just shout them out.
Maybe one of the discipline could be like aligning on the research questions, because it's sometimes a sport, I think, because you got 3 different stakeholders with totally different opinions, and then they might think that they need research, they don't need research, maybe they need research for totally different purposes, and sometimes you just sit there, listen, and you don't know how to get from this situation. So actually handling out the situation nicely and in a like quite nice time that you get really like nice research questions in some good time, it would be a good discipline, I think.
What was the question again?
If UX was an Olympic sport, which discipline would like to watch and why?
I still have no idea, to be honest. That's kind of weird. Sorry, I'll think about it. But
Maybe like digging deep, like actually understanding the core of the problem. So you will have some user who has some trouble, and who gets deeper in understanding why the trouble exists will win.
Maybe what would be really nice for so many people to watch, not to participate, handling all those toxic people, so I would say that might be quite a nice Olympic sport.
I can imagine. Like, I wonder how they would pick those people.
When you do remote testing, the discipline could be just like setting up the call correctly so everybody is able to share the screen. Especially if you are testing Seznam users, that would be like super Olympic sport to get them on the call and do everything correctly with the setting.
I'm kind of afraid there wouldn't be any winners.
There are only losers in user testing, yeah.
Just beaten participants.
Right. Okay, so if you had to do a usability testing on a deserted island, what one thing would you take with you?
Participant? Or
let's say the participant would be provided.
Oh my. Maybe the product I would like to test with this participant?
Let's even say that the product is there as well.
Okay. So maybe the device I would like to use with a participant, and you'll say,
would that be the
that
would that be the
on
most
deserted island there would be this device, right?
would that be the most important tool you have?
Oh, maybe just a paper and a pen.
Okay.
I would maybe take just some wine so we are happy for the last time in our lives, and I wouldn't do the usability testing or. Yeah.
Like a boat so we can leave afterwards.
Yeah, remember that. Best tool for usability testing, the one and only, is the boat. Yeah. Okay, so as most of you may know, the one thing that's booming right now is AI. So which part of your work cannot be replaced by AI?
I hope I can't be replaced right now by AI simply when I'm sitting right next to the participant, but I expect everything else could be somehow replaced. So preparing scenario or preparing results, or I don't know. Depends.
Like one of the things I believe now cannot be really replaced as maybe actually the ability to again go a little bit beyond the surface, because you need to know what to ask next, and it's not always like that easy to like distinguish maybe the emotion in the voice or something like that, and that cannot be replaced right now. And also I believe the preparing of the testing, actually exactly the building of the right question. Currently the AI, I don't believe, is able to decide what is actually the most valuable thing and cannot help people to come to one conclusion, because it again lacks the empathy in talking with the product owners.
You went way deeper than I did.
I don't really know, but I believe that sometimes when I do some report presentation, I like to be funny. I don't know how AI could be funny as I do. So maybe it would be better with the AI.
Coincidentally, I tried to persuade the GPT-4 to give me some jokes I could tell you about design, but they weren't good, so you're completely right, yeah. The only joke I got was that the first presentation was Applifting and the other one was amusing, but yeah, that's it. Anyway, I gave these participants one question which was before the presentation, so they can prepare. And the question was, if you had the opportunity to travel in time and be a part of redesigning some historical invention, what would that invention be and how would you design it otherwise?
Yeah, we had this discussion, right? So first thing which popped on my mind was, not everyone knows about it, but back in 90s, there were some desperate solutions to virtual reality. And I was like 80 years old or 70 years old back then. And I was so into all this like virtual reality. But all those solutions were absolutely horrible. And one of the worst was called Virtual Boy. Did you guys ever hear about it? No, doesn't matter. You know Oculus, right? Oculus Quest or it's similar stuff. So yeah, try to imagine Oculus Quest, but 5 times bigger, with like 2 times higher weight, and it had 2 legs, so you can put it on your head and spread those legs, like put it on the table. So it was extremely uneasy to use. And what was the worst part? People vomited after every time they used it. So it was a terrible experience. but they changed it. They completely redesigned it. Now we have Oculus Quest, which is amazing, or other devices, similar devices, which is amazing experience. But what else popped on my mind was printers. I hate printers, and I would go back to the maybe times of 16th century to kill Johannes Gutenberg, but I have no idea when those digital printers were created, but I would murder all those people as well. So yeah, printers are like basically they are the worst user experience. You have no idea why you're not getting the paper you want to get. And today, by the way, with my colleague Anička, Anička is there? Oh, she's over there. Yeah, she came to me and she was like, "Hey, I need to print something for today's meetup." And I was like, "Hey, go for it." And she said, "Hey, this printer doesn't work for me." And I said, "It doesn't work for me as well. So I'll have this workaround with just simply uploading the stuff I need to print to my USB and bringing the USB to the printer, and it works well." But
Right.
Yeah, my first answer was microwave, because I hate it when you have so many buttons in there and you just need only one of the button. You click once, you push it once, and it gives you 30 seconds. You push it twice, you have 60 seconds, and that's it. You don't need anything else. Maybe the door opener of the microwave, but why the hell do you need another 20 buttons? Just hands up whoever used any different button than just adding their 30 seconds. Huh? Oh no.
There is the button to set the clock, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And also I thought about those automatic doors who opens when you go close to them, because I'm that small and Jitka is the same, so we always have to wave and it's not well designed.
Yeah, I second the doors and the lightnings on the toilets. It's embarrassing. However, my first answer was, did you ever try to reset anything on that elderly alligator phone for old people? It's impossible. Having less buttons is also not always a better option. It's unbelievable. My grandma usually comes up with something like, "Can you please delete that contact, or make it that if I want to call you, I just long press the 5. And then I spend hour looking for that on that phone. Honestly, if somebody redid that, it would save me 70 hours of my life already. So please do it. If any one of you is working on Alligator, I have some improvement ideas. So I have the list.
Eager to give feedback, yeah. Thanks a lot. And my last question is a bit more practical, and that's if you could give someone who's starting with user interviews one simple advice, what would that advice be?
Actually, for me, it's you don't need to be perfect from the beginning. What you need is honestly care about the people, because then you will be really interested in what they have to say. The right questions will be much more visible to you, and you will really care about their experience. It kind of comes also together with seeing sense in what you do, having better arguments when you need to argue for the users, and overall, if you care for the people, it makes your life as a researcher so much better.
Yeah, I wanted to say something similar. Do your homework, do some research. Basically, testing with people and doing some research is a good thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect or something, but it's all about creating stuff or creating products which meet user needs. So it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I wanted to say that some user testing is always better than non-user testing. So let's do the thing, and if you do some mistakes, you will probably learn from it that nothing terrible will happen.
Okay, thank you very much. And with this last tiny piece of wisdom, I would like to conclude the debate. And cheers for Gabča, Vobe, and Jitka, because they've brought very nice content today. Okay. So the networking starts. You can eat, drink, whatever. And I've been told that we should end sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. and we should go to the pub or something. So let's see